Today on the Leaders Show, we're joined by Fredrik Skantze, CEO of Funnel, the marketing intelligence platform trusted by global giants like Uber and Adidas. Fredrik's leadership philosophy flips the script on traditional management. He believes the earlier employees get access to real company information, the stronger the trust and the faster the growth. At Funnel, transparency isn't just a buzzword. It's how they operate at scale, keeping teams aligned, motivated, and proud to work there. That commitment has earned Funnel a place among the world's most loved workplaces. And organizational psychology backs them up. When leaders lead with transparency, engagement, and performance follow. Stay with us. This one's packed with takeaways that just might reshape how you lead.
Care about each other and we care about the customer, and that is the one legacy. That's the name of the game. And by the way, it's not up here, it's here. Yeah. It's in the heart.
Fredrik, great to have you here with us today, really diving into this topic of transparency and leading a culture that is it's not too soft, right? It's equally respectful of each other, where we've moved since COVID, sort of this employee-specific, employee-centric to more human-centric, us, each other, working together with transparency and trust. And I'd love to dive in that with you today. First, I'd like everybody to know more about you and Funnel, right? I want to learn about Funnel, what you do there, so we can get grounded in it and then look at the awesome growth you're having each year, around 10% increase in employees each year. So people can be thinking about, should I be working at Funnel? And so let's start there. Nice
Absolutely.
To see you, Fredrik.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. So Funnel. So we are a marketing intelligence company. We work basically in the intersection of marketing and data, and we basically, from the beginning, sort of started helping companies answer the question of how is it going? How is my marketing going? Now that's kind of worked itself into a big platform that's also a whole workflow around marketing data. So starts actually before the data. It starts with governance. How do you set up your campaigns and budgets and targets and governance? Then you have to import the data, make it business ready. And then actually comes the difficult part of attributing your marketing activities to results, or your results to your marketing activities, which is now actually an AI data science problem. You have to activate the data and then you have to report on it. So we kind of solved that whole problem for everything from small e-commerce companies to some of the world's largest global advertisers. And you mentioned a few of them.
You said AI data. Just to go into the tech, it sounds like it's exceptional in that way. What are they really loving about it? Tell me, because you have a great background. I'm sure you did some amazing innovations there at Stanford. So tell me more about that exceptional work you do at Funnel too for companies. Why should they go to you guys? Yeah.
No, absolutely, yes. And there are a lot of solutions you can go to. There are small sort of more simplistic solutions, but if you're really serious about reporting on your marketing data and really understanding the effect of your marketing, if you as a marketer, and the great thing about digital marketing is there is data. So now as a marketer, for the first time, you can show the true impact of your marketing. But if you do that, then you typically come to Funnel. So there's about $700 billion of digital advertising every year. And we report on about 11% of that. So about $75 billion worth of advertising and growing. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't overachievers over there. It's pretty extraordinary. That large percentage of that pie it's incredible. So let's dive into what the show is all about, which is culture, transparency, so we can learn more about it. Really would like to look at that, sort of the origins of it all, right? Because most leaders think of transparency as dangerous, right? Don't be too transparent. Don't say too much, right? Or they feel like they're being told they have to be, more soft on employees, right? And there's not enough transparency and openness and honesty about what we really need and want inside of our economy. So let's dive into that, right? So you said it becomes harder as companies scale, right? And yet you've made it central to your leadership. So can you walk us through those early decisions you made at Funnel and to build that trust first culture?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to how I like to work myself. I work best if I have the most information available, and I am very interested typically in how everything works. And I wanted to create that, or we wanted to create that culture also in our company, and kind of felt that a lot of things are supposed to be in a certain way. They're supposed to be secret, or you're supposed to only make things available. But does it really matter? And how far can you take that, and how can you stretch it? And so we really, from the beginning, started with a super transparent culture where we will share with our employees how things are going, our revenue, our company metrics, our financials. Even when we have taken in financing rounds and they want to do due diligence, we have done that in open Slack channels, and everybody's been able to see the questions and how we answer them. And employees have really enjoyed that. When we have conversations, like many companies, we use Slack or Teams, but we don't do it in like compartmentalized chats that are only available for certain people, but in open channels, so anybody who wants to can join the channel and listen in and see what's happening, and people are really enjoying that. We have open calendars, so anybody can see what meetings everybody has. In fact, when my new executive assistant started at the beginning of this year, she looked at my calendar and she's like, "Oh my God, these meetings are open. That's sensitive." And she started marking them private. And I had to tell her, "No, please don't do that, because if I mark my calendar private, then others are going to start doing the same. And then we don't have this transparent culture. You got to actually look at, your culture deck and say, what does it say? And then you got to live up to that. And if you don't do it as a leader, you're never going to drive that culture. It's just going to be something you talk about."
Absolutely. And it helps for the global scale too, ensuring that it's the same across all aspects. And I can see your general Slack channel being amazing. I'd love to see what's happening there. We have a general channel as well, and a BPI team, MLW team, to have that kind of level of discussion on a general team, and also for your calendar. Wow, that's awesome. And you get to see if people are actually doing work or not.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it also goes both ways. We also ask our employees to be transparent and be more public and be more participating. So, we have weekly meetings. We don't want them just to be like, dissemination of information from us, but actually there to be questions and discussion, and so it's a give and take, and also we ask our employees to feel comfortable, and not everybody feels comfortable if they have a question to post it in more open forums and so on. So yeah, absolutely. But when you achieve that, it makes a difference. It's something that our employees say that they really appreciate. And to the point where, we have talked about that we will eventually, list ourselves on the stock exchange, become a public company, and people think our employees think that's great, that's a milestone, but they also worry what's going to happen. Can we be as transparent then? Because that's such a big part of who we are.
It changes dramatically once the SEC gets involved.
Yes.
Yeah. And you've reported really high eNPS scores. I wanted to dig into that because it sounds like this is a part of it in terms of your employees really loving it and promoting to other people really to work there. And especially a world where top tech has a lot of options, right? They can go a lot of places. What does that transparency help with, or what other aspects do you think that's helped with in terms of people loyalty or even team performance? What have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have had exceptionally high employee net promoter scores, consistently, and that's something we've been super proud of. And for many years, like we didn't almost have a single person who left the company, to the point where when somebody actually ended up leaving, we didn't have an offboarding process. We hadn't done this for such a long time. So it was really a appreciated place to work, I think the culture is a really big part of it. I mean, for us, culture is about transparency. It's about teamwork. It's something that we put really high up. We have a learning culture, and we're really focused on creating a friendly workplace. Friendly, but not to be confused with, just as we talked a little bit about, just being a soft environment. We are a performance culture, really high ambitions. We want to move at speed and create wow for our customers. But we really want to be friendly, meaning that something goes wrong, we lean in, we help, and we join forces. And it's a place where you enjoy performing and working hard together with colleagues for many, many years. That's what we feel like we want to create, and actually also, I think, have pretty well succeeded in doing.
I think that's really the key, isn't it? Like that difference between being soft and saying, oh, why don't we just all take vacations, go take off time, do whatever you want, which is fine. But if you're not a high performer, if you're not bringing things to the table, you're not doing well, you're not iterating, doesn't really matter, does it? High performance means it's part of the culture. It's part of what we do. It's part of how we are. It's part of how we show up. And transparency requires that. So I see this movement happening more and more with companies. And the more I talk to CEOs about this, there's something really true about this, which is we're moving away from a culture where we're just cowtailing. And we're at the beck and call of other people. We're saying, I'm here too, working. I'm giving. I'm investing. Are you? What part of it are you doing? Or are you just here to do social loafing, which is an organizational psychology concept, right? It's real. I'm just hanging out, loafing on the success of others. It's okay, just keep going, right? No, that's not what we're about. And that has to be called out immediately, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's been a journey for many companies, especially during sort of 2021, when we all added a lot of people to the workforce. And I think now, when times are a bit tougher, it sort of the pendulum swung very strongly from employer to employee, and now it's sort of come back a little bit, which I think is healthy. But I think in a good balance now. But definitely now there's a big focus in organizations on performance and sort of moving at speed and being a little leaner, a little faster, which I think is actually very healthy.
That's right. And I see it throughout everything: vendors, relationships, clients. Let's get a balance to how we are in life, not just one way, it's both ways, it's collaborative. So that's really important, awesome things that you're bringing forth, some specific practices. So let's make it real. How do you operationalize transparency at scale? You mentioned Slack channels. You mentioned open calendars, open book discussions. Is it more than that, right? Are there rituals or practices, that you use to make sure it's, actionable day to day? Anything else you use?
Yeah, I think that, by default, everything is open. I haven't for the first probably 13 years in the company, I didn't have an office. I sat with everybody else and spent most of my time sitting in the kitchen so that I could meet as many people as possible. And you just have to sort of, it's just a constant practice of whatever we do. Let us do it with transparency first, transparency in mind. Is this something that actually is it like, what would happen if we shared it? Probably nothing. So we spend a lot of time every year coming up with a strategy for our business. We look at really kind of, where is the industry going, competitors, partners, where is the opportunity, and then sort of at the senior level, we write that down in like a 60-page document that is probably the most sensitive document we have. Like, we mapped out an entire lot of strategy of how we see it play out and how we are going to win. And then we share it with the entire company. Because that is probably also the most important document for everybody, entire company to read, because with that, they will understand in great detail how we are thinking about where we want to go, what we want to achieve, how we can do it. And, that is the best we can do.
What do you call the 60-page document internally? What do you call it?
It's our strategy document.
It's your strategy. Got it. And then do you have, I was just curious, I'm thinking of this document being handed out to everybody. Are there ways that people reflect and analyze and report back out, or some way that they're kind of internalizing it so that you can feed back what they're thinking too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a Google Doc, so it's not actually printed and given to them, but it's a Google Doc. And actually, the first time it goes out to them, which is also part of how we want to work, it is a draft, and it goes to the employees as a draft before it goes to the board. And the employees can then actually, all our 350 employees have access to it and can actually read it and provide comments in the document and feedback. And then we take that into account. Some of that feedback is really, really good because they understand that specific part of the business really well. And some, maybe isn't really on the mark, and that's totally fine. And then based on that, then we take it back and then we readjust the document, and then it becomes a final version. So absolutely, yeah, it's interesting.
I can imagine you sending out this Google Doc, somebody looking at a little section of it and then commenting and then tagging you and assigning you to it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Right? Isn't that cool? Like, you assign Fredrik, the CEO and founder, to a specific thing to give more comments, which is super cool. That's what people want. People want that kind of transparency.
People like that. People enjoy that they can actually have that conversation, and specifically, they're also directly with me on specific strategic issues. So, yeah, so that's one of the things we do. Another one is every 6 months we run an employee survey, and we ask our employees, lots and lots of questions, and ask them to provide feedback and comments. And they, I think we have 89% of the employees answer it. It's a super high engagement, but then we report it back. Now, as we said, we have very good satisfaction scores in our employees in general, but not everything at any time is positive in the company. There is going to be things that are negative and things that are getting worse. And then we say that, and here's the score, and this got worse, and then we talk about that, and people appreciate that. It's like we don't just show them the high level metrics or the metrics that are good, but actually the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, so that it's fully transparent, and that also people really appreciate.
A lot of people, companies we have, they take in the information from Level Workplace Index. The best ones take the info, find the positive and the attributes that they need for feed forward, the negative, and they immediately get back to people, right? And we always talk about rater fatigue. Why do people not take surveys more than once? Because they get sick of it, because nobody does anything.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody does anything about it. Sounds like you're different.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's really the competitive advantage you're talking about. Some leaders see culture really as a soft variable, right? But you framed it as a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think there are two really important things. I think culture is really important. The other thing is that I think is really important, I've always felt is underdeveloped, especially in companies like us, fast-growing technology companies, leadership development. And so those are two things we focus a lot on. And so, we now have a 9-month leadership program that all our leaders go through with a set of modules. And then when we do our surveys, the different individuals score their manager as well. And we have also actually exceptionally high manager satisfaction scores now, and they are moving upwards. And that's something I'm super proud of, because that's something I always felt in tech we weren't quite getting right. It's like a company's growing really fast. You come in early, you're the one who knows it the best. Then you get promoted. You've never run a team before. You kind of mimic what your manager did, but nobody really actually trained you how to be a good manager. And I think we're doing that really well now.
And development is key. Growing your talent is key into what you need for the business, for that 60-page Google Doc before you go to the board, right? Which is so important. So if you were mentoring a founder today, right, building a startup, what's the one thing you tell them to do early on to build that trust and culture right away?
Well, I think it is to take a step back and actually, also focus on the culture. And I think it's especially important today in today's sort of AI-driven world and the frenzy around AI and startups, and everything is growing faster than before, and you're feeling like you're missing out unless you move miles every month. Actually reminds me of like 98 through 2000 when I was in Silicon Valley, which was amazing. Take a step back, focus on culture. Now, I think the important thing with culture is you can't sort of just Google culture decks and then take one that looks good. I think there has to be like a founder company culture fit. You got to kind of figure out what it is, and it may change a little bit over time as you get more mature. If you are a young founder, how are you actually going to know what you think the culture should be and needs to be? So I think that's also okay to sort of over time mold it in the direction you want. Now, the other thing is that it is so easy to say culture is important. It is so easy to write a culture deck and say we have a culture, and then actually what you really have is something very different. And that's kind of we have a welcome program that all our employees go through, and we spend a lot of time on that. That's very important to us. As part of that, I give a presentation. I talk a lot about the culture, and then at the end I sort of my ask is like, I want to meet you guys in 6 months, and then I want you to tell me like what has your experience been now? Have we actually lived up to this? And actually, a lot of that feedback is yes, we are actually living up to this. We actually I did the welcome program. I've been here a month. Actually, what I've seen so far in the organization reflects what you're saying very well. And actually, I'm very proud of that. But that doesn't come automatically. I mean, and really what's I think is the most important thing is every time you got a really hard decision. And what is a hard decision? A hard decision is something where you don't know what the right answer is. Like you just don't know what the right answer is. You sit there and go, this is mission critical and I don't know what to do. Then actually you should take out your culture deck and you should say, what does this tell you that you should do? And unless you do that, and unless you actually do what that culture deck says, it doesn't really mean anything. Then you should change the culture deck. And so we've done that a number of times. We had, as I said, teamwork was the most important thing, or one of the most important things, together with transparency in our culture. And we felt like, it started to degenerate, and we didn't quite have it anymore. We had the product team was complaining, the sales teams were individualistic. They were selling, because they had a bonus, and there was so much complaining about this and bickering about like who gets what lead and so on. And we said, this doesn't work. This is not who we are. We are working together to solve problems. And we actually, as a software company with like 70 people in Boston, US software sales, decided to eliminate commissions and bonuses in sales across the company. And this was hugely controversial. People told us, you're not going to be able to hire any new employees. The ones you hire are not going to sell. All your best employees are going to leave. And the ones who stay are not going to sell a lot. But we did it anyway because we felt there would be so many benefits to having like this teamwork culture, and it turned out really well. We kept selling, and now people are team selling. They're handing over leads to each other when they go on vacation, or deals that are halfway through, and like there's huge teamwork within the company.
I was going to add that to the beginning of the show because it's the most remarkable thing I've seen. I've never seen it before. And it's extraordinary. And I'd love to dig into that a little more, because I know a lot of people would like to know more about how you create a non-commission based sales structure, team-based sales structure. I couldn't validate it before. I wanted to make, because I didn't. So this is true. You actually have a non-commission, non-bonus structure for sales, and it's team-based. How does that happen when there's people who like aren't they're not trained in sales, right? How do they sell? You know, how does that happen? How do you do that?
Well, they are. I mean, everybody in our sales teams are professional salespeople who've long sales experiences at other companies. So and they come to Funnel, and they move from a commission model, very individualistic focus, you know, to a model where you're going to get paid. And it's not that we're paying people, like it's not that we're taking their commission away. You could say we pay their commission. We pay their full OTE every month. So you get paid every month what your OTE is, and that's fixed. But we do pay it irrespective of, you know, whether you bring that huge deal in that month or not. And why do we do that? Well, you know, we do it for two reasons. The first reason is because, you know, like what you reward is what drives behavior. And it is really hard to parameterize what you want a salesperson to actually do. Yeah, you want them to bring in business, but you want them to feedback information to product teams as well. And you don't want them to close the wrong customers who are going to churn. And you don't want them to just focus on, you know, the specific deals that would be most profitable for them. You want to close all leads and so on and so on, right? So that's one of it, and actually instead creating this environment where actually they can spend 10% of the time helping others and you know, handing things over and so on. The other thing is also just research that, you know, on very manual tasks, like if you do the same thing on and over and over again, if you get a bonus, you'll work a little bit harder. But on like cognitively complex things, if you give people a bonus to solve them, actually they do worse because they're kind of stressed out about it. And actually enterprise software sales is pretty complex. Seems to me that should then not have that bonus. So that's why we do it. Now, I speak about that sometimes in conferences. I get a lot of questions about it. People ask me if they should do it. And you know what? The answer is, like, it's a pretty big step. Like, think really carefully about it. We did it. It worked really well for us. We're really proud of it. And most enterprise software companies have commissions.
And it seems like you did it in a phased approach, so they could see the before and after of it, right? So is that true? You didn't start like this. You developed.
We had commissions first, yes, because everybody has commissions, and that's how we thought the world worked.
It turned out, though, that when you took that away and you enabled a more team-based structure, they got the same commissions, but it was more of a team collaborative environment. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. I mean, we continue to have strong performance, and but you know, the whole bickering about leads this and leads that, or now we're making changes and changes to the product, or changes to leads, or changes to people's roles, and then they want new commission, this and that. All that went away. So everything is just focused on selling, and like those 30% of the time that went on this other stuff just went away. So so it's had a lot of good benefits. Now, what I would say is that it doesn't mean you don't need a high performance culture in sales. I would almost say it's even more important to have a high performance culture in sales when you don't have commissions. And so we have individual targets for each salesperson that they are held to, and that they get reviewed every month based on their performance. And so we hold our sales teams to strict targets, but it won't affect their daily salary or their monthly salary. Of course, if you over time perform well, you will be lifted, you'll have a higher salary increase, but not at the level of bonuses. But that's just what we do in product or in customer success or anywhere else, other roles, finance. Like, we hold people to really high standards, we push them and we work with them and we develop them and we manage them. But you have to do that, and you specifically have to do it very closely in a no commission sales environment.
This is great stuff. I have a feeling a lot of people would have a lot more questions around that, because I know they'd probably want to do it right. Want to have such a high performing sales team in their own companies. You've really said it all. It's really great stuff, Fredrik. Thanks for showing us really what it looks like to lead with this kind of clarity, courage, and trust. Really, you've done a fantastic job at Funnel, and its story really proves that love, leadership, and transparency aren't opposites. They're all part of the same game. Thanks, Fredrik, for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Luke, for having me on the show.